Welcome to Area DMG.
Welcome back to Area DMG. I'm your host, Philip Wesley, the Mile High Mouth, and today we're going to take a look at, we're going to play some Smash Brothers Ultimate. We're going to play a little through with Cloud. Let's see, do we want normal Cloud from Final Fantasy VII? Although he looks more like his Dissidia character. Or do we want him from Advent Children? To be honest, we should also have the One-Winged Angel version from Kingdom Hearts, but I didn't make this game. It would be kind of nice if they did that, though. Just saying. I'm going to go with the normal. Oh, his path has to do with vehicles for some reason. Let's go into it. So, Final Fantasy VII is kind of controversial. When it came out, people thought that Final Fantasy VII, or rather a sequel to Final Fantasy VI, was going to come to the N64. So when it was announced for the Sony PlayStation, it was kind of a bit of a betrayal. People were pretty upset. Yeah, I eventually ended up with a PlayStation 1 anyways, or PlayStation back when it was just, just the first one. And it was pretty decent. Final Fantasy VII actually introduced a lot of new people to Final Fantasy, and it fixed the numbering that had happened in Final Fantasy. First Final Fantasy game I actually played was, I think I'd played a little bit of the first one on the NES at someone's house, but I like Dragon Warrior more. Dragon Quest as it's called now. Anywho, my first actual Final Fantasy thing was Final Fantasy Adventure, and that's not actually Final Fantasy. There's Final Fantasy Adventure, Final Fantasy Legend 1, 2, and 3, and those are actually a Seiken Densetsu game, and then several of the Saga games. The actual real Final Fantasy game I played first was Final Fantasy 2 on the Super Nintendo, which is actually Final Fantasy 4, and the first one I really, really loved was Final Fantasy 3, which was Final Fantasy 6. So when Final Fantasy 7 was announced, or rather that they were working on it, originally we saw all those little renders of characters from Final Fantasy VI running on Silicon Graphics Industry computers, mainly because we thought it was going to show up on the N64. So it was kind of interesting to see it show up on the PlayStation. But a lot of stuff changed near the beginning of it. In fact, originally Cloud was in one of the earliest treatments, and information I remember from like GameSpot or EGM or something, they were saying that Cloud was actually going to be the kid that was born at the end of Final Fantasy VI, which would be interesting because Final Fantasy VII takes place in a world that technically doesn't have magic. So a little bit further. I mean, Magitech, or rather the what do they call them again? The little things that they had are that you can add to your weapons were essentially, at the time, kind of like, we thought it was just remnants of Magicite. We thought it was like remnants of Magicite or something from hey, there we go. Bye bye, Fox. Anywho, getting back to Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII was wildly successful on the PlayStation. It was one of those games where people were like, man, you gotta try this, it's so different. And people liked it. It kind of revitalized the Final Fantasy franchise in America, and got people interested in RPGs. Which is weird because Sony originally didn't want RPGs or 2D games on the American PlayStation. So it was kind of like after they got these contracts that the Japanese version, rather Japanese side of Square at the time, Square, not Square Enix, was just like, yeah, we gotta have RPGs. You guys gotta do this. One thing I find kind of interesting about Final Fantasy VII, though, is that it's maintained its popularity because, with a lot of people, this is kind of their first major RPG. People legit cried when stuff happened in the game, and it was interesting to see that. So we're around 2005 or so. Sony and Square Enix at the time, because they purchased Enix, or rather merged with Enix, announced a revival of Final Fantasy VII. With Final Fantasy VII, there was going to be 2 new games, Crisis Core, which was a prequel, and Dirge of Servius, which was a sequel, then a sequel movie called Advent Children, and with Advent Children there were 2 animated features made called Last Crisis and then something whatever Tears at Denzel, which is stupid. That one's really stupid. The one that's awesome is Last Crisis, and there's only one way to legitimately get that in a physical form, and it's on the 2 DVD set that came with that like they released. I have that set. It's awesome, and Last Crisis is awesome. But I thought what was kind of interesting was at the time when they were like, we're going to revive Final Fantasy VII, they were also talking about also making a remake for it, which is apparently coming out next year. Well, part of it. There's been a lot of really... Originally, they're like, we're going to split this large game up into 3 types of things. First section's only going to be in Midgard. Now it's going to be 2 discs. And there was all sorts of weird controversy with that. And I'll get into that eventually and talk about it in some other video when Final Fantasy VII finally comes out. For, well, I'm not really sure which system to buy it on these days. Maybe PS4 Pro. Although, if there's a PC one, that'd be kind of nice, because we could fix some stuff with it. But let's not get into Final Fantasy VII, though. Let's get into what's happening with Smash. Each of these is some kind of ride-based level. So that's kind of the theme they're going with. I'm just being a troll here to Captain Falcon, because he's actually the character I have the most trouble with on this. Because I hate this stage. Bam. There we go. Most of the time what I do with Cloud is, because I don't really have a good air game with him, I'm going to stay firmly planted and smash things with that sword. I do find it interesting, though, that Cloud has found some type of popularity again. Or rather, he never really lost that popularity. I do like the fact that he also had 2 amiibo. I got both of those, and you've probably seen the unboxings of them. Which, if you haven't, they're on this channel. Oh, fun thing about this, when they announced him for the 3DS and Wii U DLC, it was kind of a huge deal, because, like, finally, Cloud is coming home to a Nintendo console. Which is kind of nice. I mean, now you can get Final Fantasy VII on the Switch. And that's quite good. My initial thoughts about that game were... I still think that Final Fantasy VII is not as good at, as I say, Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 6... and Final Fantasy 9. Also, I don't like it as much as I do. Let's see what other ones. There's quite a few. Oh no, I can't get those. Oh well. I just felt that, like, some of the problems I used to have with Final Fantasy VII, or rather with the storyline, actually revolve around Cloud. Other characters around him are pretty good, but Cloud is kind of he's kind of a jerk. Although he's got reasons for doing that, and like he does have some severe trauma from his experience with Soldier. So I've kind of I kind of understand where he's coming from these days. But when I was playing through it, I was just like, he's so much different from Terra. He's so much different from like, say, Cecil, or even the characters in 2, which actually is pretty good. I kind of like my RPG protagonists to be likable for the most part, which is why sometimes stuff with Ys or the Tales of series just doesn't always click. It just depends on how the character's portrayed. But with Cloud, I was more like, he's just kind of milk toast is the best way to put it. He did get better though with subsequent stuff, and I've always kind of liked Sephiroth a little bit more. I'm a little disappointed that Sephiroth isn't in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It would have been nice to have Sephiroth as a boss, you know what I mean? Or as a player 2 type thing. That'd be awesome. You know, when they were like, here's our shadow characters or whatnot, or these other characters who are just, the same type of character but slightly different. I was like, yes, let's get Sephiroth, and we never did. Oh well. Anywho, Final Fantasy VII. I think it's pretty good. It's on the Switch right now. You should play it. And it's on the PlayStation, on PC, on the Xbox, I think. Pretty much everything. You probably play it on a toaster or something. It's also on phones, I think, right? I don't know. Square puts everything on there except for the games that we want. I mean, like, really, really want. You know what I mean? We finally got Trails of Mana, but hey, how about we get, I don't know, remasters for Chrono Cross? Maybe release that PC version that they've recently released of Chrono Trigger on, say, the Switch. I would like that a lot. And just stuff like that, you know? I do find it interesting, though, that we are getting, like, Dragon Warrior characters for Smash. That'll be interesting. We can finally settle that, you know? It's like, oh, I kind of hope that for the Dragon Warrior character that they do characters that were in other RPGs. Like, for example, Cloud and, of course, Mario, with Mario RPG. Then you have, let me think, Joker from Persona, which I kind of feel would be good for that path. And then a lot of Fire Emblem characters, Legend of Zelda characters, that type of stuff. Oh man, I'm kind of looking forward to that. Actually, what they should do when they get to Dragon Warrior, the Dragon Warrior hero, is just be like, have his one-player classic mode or whatnot be called Swords. It's just him versus swords. They could call it the Game of Swords. It's just that sword user versus multiple sword users, because like the thing that people were saying about Sakurai's games is there's way too many people who use swords because of all the Fire Emblem characters. So that would actually be pretty funny to see. So I hope they do that. I'm looking forward to it though. I'm also looking forward to Banjo and Kazooie. That's gonna be fun in Smash. So, real quick question. Let me know in the comments below what type of characters you want to see me do. Honestly, it's kind of hard to find stuff to talk about while playing these. Maybe I'll do a few where there's no commentary. But for right now, I'm okay with that. Oh, look at that. Look at that summon. That should have been a boss. I mean, come on, look at it. That'd be great. Also, I want to mention something that's just an absolute travesty about Final Fantasy in Smash. Hey, we got the best one, Groose. Anywho, hey, Builder Mario's outfit. It's like it's trying to tell me something. It's like, hey, Philip, you should get Super Mario Maker 2. Maybe. We'll see. Anywho, sounds. Let's go to the music for a moment. And here's the real problem with this. I mean, I don't see certain stuff in here. I mean, we got like Gower playing and all that, but let's look at Street Fighter, right? Lots of stuff. Okay, cool. Castlevania, tons of stuff. Persona, lots and lots of stuff. Even obscure titles like, I mean, let's look at Metal Gear. Ton of stuff, right? Even Pac-Man has a bunch of stuff. But let's go look at Final Fantasy VII. There are 2 songs here. That is a travesty. What do you think? Is that just awful? We should really add more Final Fantasy VII songs to Smash Bros. Ultimate. Come on! So let me know in the comments below what you think. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring that little bell if you haven't already. And that way you're notified whenever we have a brand new video here on Area DMG. And until the next video comes out, you are now caught up. Morning, Maya.